Welcome to Big Blend Radio's California Sequoia Country show, home to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, Giant Sequoia National Monument and Sequoia National Forest, and the charming historic agricultural communities that make up Tulare County. Hey, everybody, June is National Great Outdoors Month. And, getting outside with your friends, your family, or even on a solo hike may be something that's really cool to do. And if you're going to do a hike, why not go to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks? So, this is our California Sequoia Country show. We're here every Thursday, first Thursday of the month. And you can go to discoverthesequoias.com to plan your adventure, because it is. Go into the parks, go into Sequoia National Forest, Giant Sequoia National Monument as well. And then also go discover the towns of Tulare County. So check that all out at discoverthesequoias.com. But first, we have some amazing guests joining us. We have Nicole Stivers joining us from the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, and Sydney Williams, and she's going to be joining us to talk about her Hike and Heal Sequoia National Park series of wilderness wellness retreats. Her and her husband, Barry, run Hiking My Feelings, and they have a wonderful partnership with SPC, which is Sequoia Parks Conservancy, which is the same as Sequoia Tourism Council that we do the show with every month. So STC and an SPC, we better get our PC straight, right, Nicole? Welcome. I'll be PC. I'll try. I'll behave. How are you?
Hello.
Welcome to the show. So I want to welcome you, Sydney. How are you?
I am great, Lisa. Thank you for asking.
So you are in your Chevy, right? Am I right about this?
Yes, she's from the late 1900s, as the kids say these days.
The kids say, oh my gosh, you're making me feel even older. I've got that big birthday about to happen. So you're making me fit on like the edge here. But this is cool. You travel the country going to parks like what we do. So this is really cool. So today you're in Moab, right? And the Sequoias comes up on the horizon soon?
Yeah, we are in Moab right now. We're taking the scenic route from Julian, California down to Sequoia for the summer season, through Utah, because that makes sense. But we're out here in Moab for our Mental Health Awareness Month tour before we land in Sequoia at the end of the month.
Wow. So Julian is a special place for both of us. It's a trip, man. Yeah, that's wow. Okay, this is a small world, but I think when Julian represents like you can get out of the city, and people don't really quite realize that there's more than apple pie in Julian. There's Vulcan Mountain and all these wilderness areas, and then you got the high desert and then the low desert. So I love that you started off there. But Sequoia National Park was kind of one of those places for you as a park to start your retreats, right?
Yeah, we originally started in Joshua Tree National Park, but the work we've been able to do.
Yeah, we also lived in. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. The threads, like this parallel life, Lisa. I love it.
It's a little crazy, yeah.
But yeah, the work that we do now with Sequoia Parks Conservancy and Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park is the full expression of the work that I've always wanted to do. So very grateful for the partnership and the opportunities we have to introduce new folks both to Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park, but also the work that the Conservancy is doing to help preserve and protect the park. And then just the healing power of nature. So it really is a win-win-win for the three organizations, and then an extra win for the participants.
Because you're also a nonprofit, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Awesome. So Nicole, give us an overview of Sequoia Parks Conservancy. I know we've done shows over the past about it, but you guys are like one of those most crucial, important organizations that really support our national parks. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, national parks, yes, they're federal, and, there's national park units like monuments and things like that, and historic trails. But, you guys are one of those that are kind of like the watchdog, the keeper, it's like when the fires happen, you're the ones going, okay, we're going to raise money for signs. You guys are like, I don't think our park system would be where it is today without organizations like yours, honestly.
Yeah, it's very, very crucial work. And it's sometimes it feels a little behind the scenes, because I think some people, when you're within the park, sometimes people just like look at the park as a whole, and not that there's two separate entities like working within the park together. But Sequoia Parks Conservancy, we fund and enable park projects and programs that protect, preserve, provide access to Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park And we also have a partnership with U.S. Army Corps of Engineer for Lake Kuya, which is right down the hill there. And as basically, we pick up where federal funding leaves off. So if there's projects and programs that the park would like to see done for, we have some buckets. We have visitor safety and access, history and culture, resource management and science, education, interpretation, anything that falls within those buckets that the federal funding might not cover for the year, we put them inside of what we call our philanthropic work plan. And we raise money throughout the year to fulfill those needs. So, we do that by asking folks to be champions for their park. And we do it in 3 ways. We have a retail outlet. So they can shop with us at one of the park stores, which are located within the visitor center. We obviously have the philanthropic side where they can help donate to one of those projects or programs. And then we have our Field Institute at Sequoia Parks Conservancy. And our Field Institute is different than your typical like tour guide. We work hand in hand with the National Park System and our rangers and the inter programs there to make sure we don't overlap. But more importantly, we try to enhance the messaging that they're already giving in their ranger-led programs. And one of the kind of a newer thing to Sequoia Parks Conservancy is the partnership that we have with Hiking My Feelings. And I'll let Sydney speak a little bit about the history there. But the Field Institute Sequoia Parks Conservancy focuses on education and promoting stewardship of our parks. And we do this through, again, like guided programming and partnerships. And so we're really excited about the partnership that we have with Hiking My Feelings. And I'm just going to leave it right there for Sydney to pick up because
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I want to say that Nancy and I did go on one of your hiking adventures back in 2014. And no, 20, no, I don't know what year it was. I give up, man. I'm like in another planet now. No, it was about 4 years ago. Let's just put it that way. There it was. Yeah, about 4 years ago we went, and it was amazing because it was a guided hike, but it was according to what we wanted to experience. And basically, we didn't, it's not one of these marathon hikes. And we looked at worms eating wood. We did, I mean, we looked at different birds. We did all these like just chill out. And it was great because I do a lot of photography and everything. So it was just this chilled out, slow experience where we really got to learn. We got to not only learn about nature, but also people of the park, the history of the people of the park, which was amazing. There's a lot of women's history, by the way, in Sequoia National Park. So it was just a really cool experience. And then the stewardship, we saw things that people had done, like, that shouldn't have, written on trees and, things like that, where you learn, you look at us, you're all amazed and you're in awe. And then you're like, dude, like you suck, why did you do that? So we learned the stewardship thing that was so cool. And of course we know this, Nancy and I traveling doing parks, as our thing, our Love Your Parks tour. But it just was, there's something about going on a guided hike where you get to learn things that if you're out in the wilderness yourself and you've never been there before, you don't really quite know what you're looking at. And I encourage people to still go out on their own to have their special experiences, but to have that initial welcome is really cool. So Sydney, yes, take it away from there. Like, what do you do? I mean, as these hiking, now you're getting into our emotional feelings.
Uh-oh.
Because this is, well, no, but this is you know what? I think our country is changing towards trying to be healthier. I interview a lot of musicians all the time. And it's not like the same rock and roll band smashing hotel rooms anymore. They're drinking smoothies before they go on stage instead of, heroin and stuff. So we're changing as a culture. So this is good.
The world is changing. And I think the inspiration behind the work that we now do with Sequoia Parks Conservancy and Sequoia Kings Canyon was inspired by my journey. Like I had two really incredible experiences on the Trans-Catalina Trail, which goes from tip to tip of Catalina Island. And the first hike in 2016 was the hardest thing I've ever done in this physical body. Like I was out of shape. I had no experience. I did no practicing. no training. And I was like, whoa. But the second time I was training, I lost a bunch of weight. I was really managing my health in really like transformational ways as a result of being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And after the second
Mm.
hike, I was like, oh, this is really interesting, because the first point of contact I made after that second hike wasn't to my friends or family who were tracking my progress on the hike to let them know that I was safe in the wilderness. It was to the Catalina Island Conservancy, because I knew that they managed the land. And that kind of just opened my eyes, because my first thought to them was, I just had two life-changing experiences on this trail. How can I help protect and promote this place? Which really set forth this framework that I've been working within since 2018, which is, who are the people and what are the organizations that are doing the work to support these places and to raise money for these critical projects, and how do we get more money into these parks, and how do we support these different endeavors? So that simple question of like, how can I protect and promote this place, led me eventually to the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, because I had a very foundational understanding of that dynamic between the park itself, or the public land, and the nonprofit partner that supports it. Most people, to your point, Lisa, they don't know that that relationship exists.
Mm.
So part of the initial outreach was just like, I love the work you guys are doing. I saw somebody jump the fence at the General Sherman tree, and I had one of those moments where the thought in your head comes out of your mouth. And I was just like, are you for real? Like at the top of my
I'm
lungs.
glad
And I
you
was
said
like,
it that way, because yeah, I'm glad you did that.
save it everybody's ears. But I was
Yes.
just like, I want to help educate people, because when we know better, we do better. It's true for me. I didn't grow up in the outdoors. I didn't know anything about Leave No Trace until I sought out that information. So our events now, we, in partnership with the Volunteers and Parks Department at Sequoia Kings, they have a bunch of different environmental stewardship projects that they're leading within the park. They assign one to my group, and then I create a program that mirrors the very vulnerable experience that is being human to how we're caring for these very vulnerable landscapes. So in the spirit of our work with Sequoia, we've been supporting a meadow restoration in Round Meadow, which that project itself has been going on for 7 years, and this will be our third season supporting it, which gives us already a beautiful metaphor about mental health, right? Like, you don't just do one cleanup and then the meadow is saved. You don't just come to one event and then like you're forever healed. Like, it requires tending to. And so we've been able to create, in partnership with Sequoia Parks Conservancy, this beautifully well-rounded educational component to this event, where we get to tie in what their interpretive naturalists are already sharing in the park, a beautiful astronomy program that reconnects us to a resource, the night sky, and also a beautiful guided hike through the giant forest that talks about the deep history of mental health in the National Park Service, but also in Sequoia Kings Canyon specifically. So it's this really beautiful, well-rounded event that takes existing programming from Sequoia Parks Conservancy, layers in our connection to the human experience, and how we can kind of connect the dots between inner wilderness and outer wilderness, and then supports these very critical, crucial volunteer programs that need to be done so this park can continue to be a healing safe haven for people and planet and all of the living things that are here that want to enjoy it. So it's the most rewarding work I've ever done. It's the most fulfilling work I've ever done. And the impacts for myself, like, I do this work to support my mental health, and bringing up the Park Service and all of our public lands as a resource for mental health support. Like, we talk about the environmental importance and we talk about the healing power of nature, but why aren't we having that connection where we connect the two? So that's what we're trying to do, is just help people develop a deeper connection to place, largely as a response to my own journey, but also when I was on my first tour in 2018 and 2019, just sharing about my story of healing in nature, I saw a big poster on a store, at an REI store that I was speaking at. It said, the average American spends 90% of their life indoors. And that was true for me before I started spending time outside. And I was like, how can we get people outside and reconnected to the planet from which we came? Because once you remember that you're from this planet, you care a lot about it. And I thought that maybe that was just unique to me, but it's not. It works for everybody that we've had the pleasure of working with. So it's just, it's a dream of a partnership. I just absolutely love doing this work. And SPC is so much fun to co-create with on this.
Well, I think it's awesome because also, Sequoia Kings Canyon, it's, they're iconic. These trees are iconic. You know, you can't find them beyond the Sierra Nevada, except for I saw a petrified one out in Colorado, and but at Florissant National Monument, it's one of those underrated national park units. But I mean, this is from millions of years ago, right? So, but you don't find sequoia trees in the wild, in the wilderness, like you do in Sequoia Kings Canyon and Yosemite. That's it, the Sierra Nevadas. So you're seeing this very special, you know, living organism, but it's the web of life that goes around these trees is massive. So you take one thing out, it affects this, and it's that domino effect. And that's what our thing is. When you get on in nature, you start to realize that everything is connected. And that is so important for humanity. And I think at a time as now, as important as now, like, of course, there's climate change and all of that. But you look at the world arguing and fighting politically. I mean, all this stuff is getting to a point of it. I mean, how many people have blood pressure issues when I think that sometimes they just need a walk in the park, you know? And that's that. And it's like, and then you realize you're not alone. Nature is humbling, and at the same time lets you know you are not alone in this journey. And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing in these kind of programs. Also, Sydney, I wanted to ask, you know, in regards to mental health and physical health, we know that we don't stick to programs unless we're in a group setting. We're not good at that. We're pack animals. Okay. Sorry. I pet sit as we travel across the country, and dogs lean on me. I'm like, all right, I'm a pack. I'm part of the pack. Good. There's not one piece of clothing that I have that does not have some kind of fur or feather on it, or scales. So, you know, that's the thing. It's, when you go out there, to get into change habits, negative habits into positive habits for your health and your body, you kind of need some kind of support, not just, okay, I'm going to do this. And then if you screw up, you beat yourself up mentally, emotionally. And so does that happen with these retreats, in that you're not alone? Like you need someone there to, for the accountability and the support.
Yeah, well, and I think going back to the metaphor of using a meadow restoration to help connect these dots for folks, if we think about, if you go in, like, so you go to Mound Meadow, it's surrounded by trees that are hundreds, if not thousands of years old. And you're immediately grounded in time and space. And you're like, my problems are a blip on the radar. Not to say that they're not valid, but they're not as big as I think they are. So automatically you're like, whoa. And then you look at the meadow and you're like, this meadow is living its best meadow life. And we're like, true, but that's orchard grass. And that grass came from this grazing period where now it has just infiltrated this meadow and it's all over the place. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So then you're like, oh, it's kind of like those steps on the healing journey where you're like, I just discovered something about myself. I connected these dots. Now I have a deeper understanding. Okay. And then we go out in the meadow and we're like, we've taught you at this point, this is an invasive species. This species is intending to take over this meadow and it's trying its hardest, but we're going to intervene. And it's like, we teach you about invasive thoughts as well. To your point, that negative soundtrack, when you're like beating yourself up about this. If I've heard that some people don't have that. And if you're a listener of Lisa's show and you're one of these people, please find me and reach out to me so I can dissect your existence. But for the most part, we all have this negative
talk about
soundtrack.
A science class. Science class is about to happen. Leave the frogs alone, even if they're invasive. Sorry.
So we show you, like, we've talked about invasive thoughts and these limiting beliefs that we have, the I shoulds, I'm not smart enough, I'm not young enough, I'm too old for this, I'm too ugly for whatever the stories are that we're telling ourselves. We teach you about that, we make a list. Then we go out in the meadow and you're like, oh, I see what's happening here. We're removing invasive thoughts and we're taking that physical action to remove the invasive species from the ground. So I was working on this one, right? It came up through a sequoia that had fallen in the meadow. There's this patch of orchard grass and it was like so deeply rooted. Like, this is like the most limiting belief I've ever had in my entire life. And it is stuck in this log and I've got a pickaxe and I've got all my body weight and I'm like, oh, and I'm like yanking for like 5 whole minutes. And then out of nowhere, it's like, and it's like that moment where you're like, oh, I get it. I get it. Cause like when we break a bone, right? If your arm has a bone sticking out of the skin, you're like, uh-oh, we got a problem. But we don't have that for mental health as much as we do physical health. So like, you break your bone, you go to the doctor, they take an x-ray, it's confirmed. You got a guy in a white coat or a woman in a white coat. It's confirmed. your bone is broken. Here's your prognosis. Here's your treatment plan. We don't have that for mental health. We don't have that physical representation. So we use the meadow as that metaphor. So we go out and we remove these invasive species. And there's some species that we want to keep that accidentally get removed with the invasives. It's just how it goes. A little bit of collateral damage. And it's like, oh, taking that back to healing. Yeah, well, sometimes some good things are going to fall away when you start healing the bad things. It's just how it goes. And then at the end of the stewardship project of this weekend, we're like looking at this meadow, and now there's all these like barren, it looks like a wasteland. It looks like we trampled it. It looks like we ruined the meadow. But what we didn't do, we didn't ruin anything. We have this big stack of invasive grasses over here that need to go be distributed anywhere else to go decompose and not in this meadow. And then you're like, dude, I get it. The meadow now has room for the native species and the bears and the wildflowers and the birds and the hummingbirds and the pollinators. They can all like do what their happy meadow stuff does. And we've
That's
like
awesome.
eliminated some of the hard stuff. So yes, like the healing power of nature knows no limit. And for the sake of our events, like we're introducing you to the history of the park, the natural resources that are being protected within the park, the people that are doing that protecting, and also helping you create a deeper connection to place, to yourself, and in community. Because to your original point, we shouldn't be trying to do this alone because it is not helpful. And as long as you can hear birds or see trees swaying or grass in the breeze or whatever, like you're not alone. Even if there's no other humans around, like we're never alone. But we're so disconnected from it that we feel like we are.
Well, Joan Baez has one of my favorite quotes is, action is the antidote to despair. It's seriously one of my favorite things. And right now in travel, tourism is changing and shifting. Transformational travel and tourism and regenerative. Those are two key words in the business, or pleasure travel. I hate that word, pleasure. Like they can pleasure this, but anyway, it's a business and leisure. But anyway, you can add this to your pleasure bucket, whatever. But going to the transformational and the regenerative, and it goes beyond volunteerism, right? So transformation is transformation of self, transformation of this meadow. Regenerative is both, right? So I think you're hitting two things that as travelers, we have to change because the spaces need this protection. We still want to go places. Nicole, isn't this true? I mean, that's why you have the shuttle system in Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon. We can't all drive our cars up there. We have to balance out a little bit. Like, national park, like Rocky Mountain National Park, you have to reserve time to get in because we can't all just jump in and get there at one time. So I think these kinds of programs, we're giving back instead of just taking all the time, because we do tend to do that as travelers. Like we'd like our, plate of food at this time, please, because I have this monument to see at this time and this tour group to take, So I think this is really this balanced way of authentic experience, don't you think, for the parks and for the people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice balance.
It's I'm a single mom, and so
oh, you need to go to Round Meadow right now. And Crescent Meadow too. I love Crescent Meadow.
But like experiences and opportunities like this, like when you're a single mom in today's society, like you're constantly like worried about like everything, right? Like you're worried about what they're being exposed to at school, what they're being exposed to on their phones, what they're being TV, like everything. But one thing that like I know I'm not alone in this. For many years, like I live down the hill, and so I commute. I work from home, but I that is my backyard. Sequoia Kings Canyon holds a very special place in my heart, and that was always our like day trip. That was always our adventure together, our getaway. So we would be able to go up for the day and come back. But I would never like travel away from like where I could see like a parking lot because it made me nervous. Like I wanted my kids to be in nature. I wanted them to have that experience. But also as a single mom, like I was very nervous to let like so, like any type of society out of my sight because I wasn't sure. I was unsure of like what I would encounter or like if I would travel down the wrong path and not know how to get back. And And I think that like part of what our Field Institute does is it allows people even in that like mindset of like I want to experience this, but I'm a little nervous, but I don't want like that like tour guidey kind of feel. Like these opportunities and programs like allow you to really be immersed into nature and stuff and still like feel safe too. Like
And so
part of
you
the
can
group.
grow. You have a space to
Yeah,
grow personally.
absolutely.
Ooh,
It's
I like that.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
and I
we
think,
started.
Lisa, too,
No.
I think to your point about we take a lot as travelers and what are we doing to give back? That's a very important question that I ask myself as an outdoorist. Like, what if I say I have a relationship with nature, when was the last time I gave back? Because if I don't give back, then that's take, take, take. And if I was in a relationship with another human that was just take, take,
Mm,
taken, I wouldn't want to be in that relationship. So we're really looking at that reciprocity, and that
mm,
for me, because nature is so healing, it's not enough for me to just go there and experience healing and have that deep appreciation for a place. Like, I need to get my hands in the dirt. I need to
right.
go out and advocate on the streets, like whatever it is, to make sure with the skills that I have and the small platform we've created and the just the enthusiasm and love I have for these places. Like, that's what we're trying to encourage, is not so much what to think, but a new way to see the world and a new way to connect with it and with each
mm.
other and with ourselves.
The take doesn't work because eventually you're going to feel guilty. You took. And eventually you feel like a thief, right? And the thing is, this transformational travel, I love that word and that term is coming about, and regenerative is that you put back. And so, regenerative is huge because that means like, hey, the meadow now has that space. So, there's like a Buddha saying like, you can't keep putting water into the same glass, it's going to overfill. And that's what happens with invasive species. Nothing can breathe, right? I'm trying to tell that to my belly. I need to go hiking with you soon. I've been indoors too long. But really the thing is, the transformation is when you have a moment that changed your life. And for travelers, you go to see the giant sequoias, that is like jaw drop. I've watched people slam on their brakes in just, our friend Dana Dirks, who used to work in Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, she says, Lisa, it's called jaw drop. They're in awe. And I'm like, dude, why are they doing this? She's like, Lisa, you need to go for a hike. Like, it's called being in awe. But how far does the being in awe take you if you don't take that next step to understand? Right. So I think our ranger programs and I think the excursions and the programs you have, Nicole, with Sequoia Parks Conservancy, they're amazing because you get to learn about this web of life. But when you actually get your hands into a program that goes beyond, so you're transforming yourself, you're learning, you're going to have this memory. So Sequoia and Kings Canyon, it's going to be imprinted in your life. That becomes part of your DNA. It goes beyond the happy selfie, right? That is not just a typical selfie memory. This is a transforming memory for yourself, but you did something regenerative for yourself and the land, which means the land is going to it's going to thrive instead of survive or try to survive. I mean, invasive species, most of that stuff came from humans. I don't care if it's in the Everglades with the pythons to, yeah, you're talking about, I didn't know about orchard grass. Now I'm looking going, dude, all that time I thought, what? No, now I'm gonna have to go delete all my photos. No, I'm kidding. Like, you're orchard grass. We don't want you. I didn't know about orchard grass, but I know about like, mustard and buffalo grass and stuff like that we've had to pull out of parks. But there's simple things too that we can do as travelers and hikers. Don't carry stuff from one park into another. Like, clean your boots off, your hiking boots. And any tips on that, Sydney, for travelers going into the parks that you can share with what we can do to be better stewards? Because I think your program is definitely doing that, but just like going in before you get there, be like, wear baggies over your boots or something.
Well, I'm seeing more and more of the boot brushes at major trailheads around the country, so I'm excited for that because that definitely helps. But I think also is just like from a generational perspective, one of the things that is most impactful about this opportunity for me and people my age around on either end of the age range here, is that we don't all have the capacity to financially make an impact, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
personally can't write a check to SPC and make
Mm,
a big impact in that
sure.
way. I don't have the resources, but what I do have is a lot of angst. that needs to go somewhere. And
Might as well
so
start working. You got to do.
yeah, and exactly. And that's the thing, is like, for anybody that's listening that's got like this pent up, just like climate related anxiety, your own mental health issues that need support, your own physical health issues that you're looking to remediate, like, if you're already planning a trip to public lands, like, look up Friends of, or insert park, and then Conservancy. Like, they all have different names and stuff, but one of the most impactful ways we can start to protect these places is by prioritizing shopping in those visitor centers, because most people don't know, like, when you buy from the visitor center in the park, 9 times out of 10, I can't think of any exceptions except for like concessionaires that are separate, those gift stores are run by these nonprofit partners, and that's what's keeping these projects funded for a good portion of stuff. So it can be as simple as choosing where to spend your money. Like, that's a great way to support the park. But also, like, plan your vacation around a stewardship project. Like, if you're coming to Moab, look up the Canyonlands Field Institute. They do volunteer projects all the time. They have monthly mental health hikes. If you're going to Sequoia Parks Conservancy, look up the or if you're going to the Conservancy, also go to the park. But like, check and see what the programs are. Yosemite has programs, Glacier has programs. Like, find out who these partners are, and to your point, just start to make those decisions that thereby makes your travel more intentional, more regenerative, and more transformational. It's just the opportunities are out there. We just need to learn the language of what we're looking for, and I think that's one of the most probably profound parts of this conversation that we're having today, but also the experiences that we're creating, is giving people the vocabulary to understand what's happening within themselves, what's happening on a community level, and what's happening in the park, and how they all intersect, and why that's so important.
And understand the connection between our thing is community and parks. Understand your parks, like, it's like, how many people have, an amazing park in their backyard or 10 minutes from their house, and go only when friends come to town, you know and it's okay, you can limit your time, but be part of that connection, because if the park is unhealthy, I can guarantee your community is. And if your community is unhealthy, I guarantee it's going to start running into the park. And those two, that is pure health. And so, even as travelers, we immediately become part of that community that we're visiting. So, we need to understand that too and support the communities. So, like, go to the small businesses. I'm just saying, support the small businesses and the nonprofits doing things, like Tulare County, I got to give a shout out to them. I mean, you're talking about, it's, a lot of agriculture, but you got mom and pop stores, restaurants, everything, campgrounds, go, and you'll have a unique experience. Who cares about the big box thing that comes to your door? We all know who I'm talking about. And well, now it's just, I mean, that's all we're living like. And we create these concrete jungles. We human beings have done what we've done. And that is part of our mental health crisis that we have in this country, is what we've built and what we thought was so important. The more we distance from nature, the more concrete wins. And we don't need all that. Let's go camping, man. Come on. See the stars. Oh, Nicole, is the Dark Sky Festival happening this year?
Yes. And it's 3 days.
Wow.
Yes, we're super excited about that. 6th, 7th, 8th of September, September 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's going to be 3 days. We are actually bringing some of that down into the valley floor this year.
Okay, cool.
And so there's talks of an astronomy on tap at a local brewery somewhere in the valley.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, it's going to be a great time had by all. And then we are also talking, like, mentioning like a lot of that community and stuff that actually is, community is such a big deal, especially for me. Like, the people within the Central Valley, I mean, those are our backyard. That's our playground. That's our backyard. And I hold it very, very, I get very personal about it. But leading up to the Dark Sky Festival, we are starting to talk to some people in the local community, the like small local businesses, to do kind of like a star trail leading up to the event and stuff. So they will, it might be a certain themed ice cream for Dark Sky. It might be a certain themed craft beer or coffee, or just
pancakes
like a
with
little
blueberries. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, so we're trying to do some fun things within the community this year with Dark Sky Festival, and
I think
it's
that's huge because it's important because of the actual understanding that we're all connected by the skies, right? We're all
yes,
connected. And if you can't see it, there's a reason, again, that community health. And the more we can talk about like parks after dark, too. I mean, it's like go in at night. There's this multi layered experience to be had. But I love that because what we do at home in a community, it's like, do you need your light on all night long? Really?
right,
That's hurting hummingbirds. Like that sucks. You're hurting migration of birds. You're
yeah.
ruining pollination with insects. You're like, and we don't know until like these, events happen. Events are a great way. And I love that you're doing these specific retreats too, because that makes it extra special. Sydney, what are some date frames for people to know to
Mhm.
be able to be part of this?
Yeah, we have 3 retreat weekends this summer in Sequoia National Park. So the first one is June 28th through the 30th, and then we have July 19th through the 21st, and August 16th through 18th. And so those are all Friday, Saturday,
Cool.
Sunday. 2 nights camping at one of the coolest campgrounds. The Wolverton Service Camp is where the
Cool.
volunteers and researchers and biologists and just anybody who's coming to support the park in some way, shape, or form, that's where they're set up. So it's a really conducive environment to having these very serious and also very lighthearted conversations. Like hike and heal can sound like daunting because you're like, oh my God, hiking and oh my God, healing. But the is actually probably the smallest portion of what we do. We spend a lot of
You
time
sweat
sitting in
it out.
circle. Yeah. And we spend a lot of time with our hands in the dirt. So yeah, we've got events coming up in June, July, and August, which sets you up perfectly for that Dark Sky Festival in September. So
Yeah.
summer in Sequoia is going to be dope. And I hope everybody
Yeah.
that's listening comes and visits because we've got a lot of cool stuff on deck.
And every marmot that you see, his name is Goldie. I'm just
Okay,
saying.
noted.
It's Goldie. You say hi. And I do want to encourage people when you're there, no matter what your age is, to become a junior ranger because it's another cool thing to do. We all have to be junior rangers. We've got a sock monkey that goes around the country with us, Priscilla, and she's got her junior ranger badge from all over. Her first one was at Sequoia National Park. So just saying, we can all be junior rangers. It's fun. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I want to come back so bad. Everyone, plan your visit. Go to discoverthesequoias.com. Also, go to hikingmyfeelings.org. And Sydney's got a couple books on there, all kinds of resources. I encourage you to connect with her. And also for the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, go to sequoiaparksconservancy.org and you can see all their different activities that they have, all their tours, all kinds of good stuff. And go shopping. You know what? Christmas in July is coming, right?
Yep,
Come on. Great Outdoors Month is a good time to get a new t-shirt, right? I'm just saying it's a good
absolutely.
thing. Yeah. So everyone, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's California Sequoia Country Show. New episodes air every first Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time. You can keep up with the show at bigblendradio.com, but also plan your Tulare County escape. Go to discoverthesequoias.com.